The bottom line of the rambling and inchoate statement about the Jamal Khashoggi case put out by the White House, which read like it was dictated by U.S. President Donald Trump himself, went something like this: the Saudi Crown Prince may well have ordered the vicious killing inside the country's consulate in Istanbul, but guess what? I couldn't care less, and I will not let the premeditated slaying of a U.S.-based journalist get in the way of making money off the Saudis and going after Iran. If anyone else had issued such a statement, he or she would be asked two questions. Don't you have a copy editor? Don't you have a moral bone in your body? For President Trump, neither question is relevant. He is seemingly not interested in the finer points of advancing a coherent argument. And he apparently could not care less about even the most basic questions of good or bad. Transactional president, but being ignorant or unwilling, or both, to differentiate between good and bad does not absolve anyone, let alone the leader of the world's most powerful country, from being called out for behavior that flies in the face of the kind of moral leadership that U.S. presidents used to pride themselves in. Even if they often did not live up to it. Michael Negus, DW's U.S. correspondent. Trump is different. He does not even pretend to be a moral leader. As this transactional president made abundantly clear, Saudi money and support for his anti-Iran stance easily outweigh the killing of a Washington Post writer, a newspaper Trump despises. This behavior is of course no surprise, but just another confirmation of what kind of person was elected president 2 years ago. Read more. Germany issuing travel bans to 18 Saudis over Khashoggi's death. Getting away with murder still. Tuesday's despicable statement ranks among the low points of a presidency teeming with embarrassing, offensive and dangerous rhetoric and actions for a simple reason: it literally lets the Saudi leaders get away with murder. That's because, by all accounts, the luring of Khashoggi into the Saudi consulate in Turkey, where he was brutally murdered by a Saudi hit team, was so brazen and reckless that it could only be orchestrated after it had been green-lighted by the Saudi top leadership, especially the Crown Prince. October 2, prominent journalist Jamal Khashoggi was last seen entering the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, where he had gone to obtain an official document for his upcoming marriage to his Turkish fiancée, Hatice Cengiz. He never emerged from the building, prompting Cengiz, who waited outside, to raise the alarm. October 3, Turkish and Saudi officials came up with conflicting reports on Khashoggi's whereabouts. Riyadh said the journalist had left the mission shortly after his work was done. But Turkish presidential spokesman Ibrahim Kalin said the journalist was still in the consulate. October 6, Turkish officials said they believed the journalist was likely killed inside the Saudi consulate. The Washington Post, for which Khashoggi wrote, cited unnamed sources to report that Turkish investigators believe a 15-member team came from Saudi Arabia to kill the man. October 8, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan called on Saudi Arabia to prove that Khashoggi left its consulate in Istanbul. Turkey also sought permission to search the mission premises. U.S. President Donald Trump voiced concern about the journalist's disappearance. October 12, British billionaire Richard Branson halted talks over a $1 billion Saudi investment in his Virgin Group's space ventures, citing Khashoggi's case. He also pulled out of an investment conference in Riyadh dubbed the Davos in the desert. His move was followed by Uber's Dara Khosrowshahi, J.P. Morgan's Jamie Dimon and a host of other business leaders. October 15, Turkish investigators searched the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. The search lasted more than 8 hours and investigators removed samples from the building, including soil from the consulate garden and a metal door, one official said. October 19, Saudi Arabia finally admitted that Khashoggi died at the consulate. The kingdom's public prosecutor said preliminary investigations showed the journalist was killed in a fistfight. He added that 18 people had been detained. A Saudi foreign ministry official said the country is investigating the regrettable and painful incident. October 21, Saudi Arabia provided yet another account of what happened to Khashoggi. The kingdom's foreign minister admitted the journalist was killed in a rogue operation, calling it a huge and grave mistake, but insisted that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman had not been aware of the murder. Riyadh said it had no idea where Khashoggi's body was. October 21, German Chancellor Angela Merkel said Germany would put arms exports to Saudi Arabia on hold for the time being, given the unexplained circumstances of Khashoggi's death. Germany is the fourth largest exporter of weapons to Saudi Arabia after the United States, Britain and France. October 31, the Turkish prosecutor concluded that Khashoggi was strangled to death soon after entering the consulate, and was then dismembered. Another Turkish official later claimed the body was dissolved in acid. Turkish President Erdogan said the order to murder the journalist came from the highest levels of Saudi Arabia's government. November 5, Saudi Arabia told the United Nations it would prosecute those responsible for Khashoggi's murder. This came as the United States and dozens of other countries raised the journalist's death before the UN Human Rights Council and called for a transparent investigation. November 8, Khashoggi's fiancée, Hatice Cengiz, wrote on Twitter that she was unable to express her sorrow upon learning that the journalist's body was dissolved with chemicals. "Are these killers and those behind it human beings?" she tweeted. Author, Ashutosh Ponti Trump, by simply disregarding the conclusion of his own and other intelligence services and by refusing to mete out any appropriate sanctions for such an egregious act, effectively condones the barbarism and evil committed by the Saudis. Worse still, by whitewashing their behavior, Trump is aiding and abetting similar actions by other despots around the world. President Trump turned Tuesday, November 20, 2018, 2 days before Thanksgiving, into a dark day for human rights worldwide. New priority for new Congress: this cannot be tolerated. Like it did with Trump's reluctance to sanction Russia, Congress must step in and act now. And if the lame duck Congress, where many Republicans are still eager not to offend Trump, will not act and level meaningful sanctions against Saudi Arabia, then the new Congress with a Democratic-run House of Representatives must. Investigating the Trump administration's behavior toward Riyadh and sanctioning Saudi Arabia may not have been the top of the agenda for the new Democratic House next year. It must be now. Every evening at 18:30 UTC, DW's editors send out a selection of the day's hard news and quality feature journalism. You can sign up to receive it directly here.